I'm Allison Orr. I'm Artistic Director of Forlift Danceworks.
And I'm Chrissy Marty, Associate Choreographer with Forlift Danceworks. We're here on Williams campus to make a dance with the dining services employees and to work with students.
Well, we have the full contingent of students here, which is upwards of 2,500, give or take, and they all have to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, snacks in between.
We serve around 900 meals per day. This kitchen operates from 6 in the morning till 8:30 at night.
In one particular dining hall, say Whitman's, that would be about 1,500 meals a day.
We probably average about 50 or 60 for lunch that we're open Monday through Friday. And then we also take care of probably about 85 to 90% of the catering that goes on campus.
Dining services on campus prepares about 4,500 to 5,500 meals a day.
Chrissy and I are choreographers who are inspired by the movement of everyday life. And we've been making dances that feature people who you don't typically think of as dancers for many years. And we're working to see how we could do our community-based process here at Williams and how we could create a performance project that would really address a need here on campus and be an opportunity to create community, create conversation. And we landed on working with dining services, working with the hardworking folks who cook, clean, prepare meals for students and staff. And we're finally now to the point of actually making the product, which is the dance, ultimately.
So served means to Williams this beautiful, multi-dimensional approach to understanding the work of one of the larger operations on campus. There's about 115 people doing this work, and all the different ways in which it comes together and all the art that's embedded in it. And give those folks a voice that they wouldn't have in any other way than to be able to present it artistically in this way, to be able to completely transform the spaces in which they actually do the work into a place where they could perform the work artistically and in front of a whole group of people who would never ever have a window into that aspect of their lives.
This process came about 3 years ago from listening to stories from the dining services workers, which led to a conversation with Steve Klass talking about how we can amplify the stories of the members of the dining services. Because it is critical for us to show how important dining services is to the overall Williams community. And that's when we started thinking about Allison and Chrissy and Forlift Danceworks, who could help us amplify these stories.
We primarily make our work in Austin because our work takes years to make. It's about showing up on a weekly basis. It's embedding within a particular community. It's gaining trust. How you get folks who don't identify as performers to agree to actually be in a live dance event, you have to build real relationship. And so this is really an experiment for us to take the whole team and actually try to do a full-on production off-site in a community that's not ours.
When I first heard of this, and it was explained that the staff would get together and work on a performance and actually showcase what they do every day, I really believed it was going to be an excellent production. I believed it would work. I had no doubts that team would pull together and actually perform above and beyond anyone's expectation.
We're working on a lot of logistics and figuring out how the hell we make this happen, right? We're working on figuring out how to put all the pieces together. So we've had meetings, we've had time artistically to figure things out, and then we're also starting to job shadow employees and learn about what they do, meet people, let them get to know us, we get to know them.
We had our composer on campus, Graham Reynolds, our production designer, Stephen Pruitt, and we're really looking at Pereski as the performance space, talking to both dining services staff, but also students and faculty about how to get people involved in the making of this performance.
Really our goal as a company is to activate communities through a collaborative creative process. So I think there's a lot of things that happen within our process. I think we often invite people to create with us and alongside. I mean, they're the experts in their job. I don't know much about a dish machine. I've never cooked in a professional kitchen, so I'm really learning from the experts in that moment, and also then they begin to help us shape what the choreography is. Kind of together we might facilitate that, or we collaborate to make that happen. We're really learning about the job and learning about the culture of dining services and the culture of Williams, and each dining hall has its own thing going on, so we're just taking it all in.
Well, I hope the folks who were performers take away from this a sense of how deeply we value their work and how deeply we value them as members of our community and as folks who do work that has so much art and motion embedded in it. And I hope that all the folks who are able to come would take away from it just that what's involved in this work and how many people really do it, and understanding the length of the day and all the different work that goes into something that you interact with for just a few moments during the course of your day.
Here already, I feel like I'm already inspired by just the teamwork it takes to run a kitchen. You know, I mean, you would know that, but just really looking at, you know, like the cooks need clean dishes, and then they get filled with food, and then they're back in the dish room, and then they're coming back out to be served to the students, and you know, the kind of cycle that's happening already, I'm finding inspiring.
You know, the kitchen is your stage on a day-to-day basis, and there is some choreography that goes into a day's work, whether it be, you know, what station you're going to be working with or what items you're going to prepare. And I think with our groups, you know, having a job and flowing into what maybe the next person needs, or working side by side, or working around each other, or constantly watching each other's back, if you will, in the kitchen, meaning we don't burn anything. You know, it all just kind of translates into a movement in our own little small space to try to accomplish our jobs.
Watch the kitchen, watch the movement in the kitchen. When there is 6, 7 employees right in a small space, they need to move around with knives in their hands. They need to move around with spatulas in their hands. They're opening ovens. They're jumping down below to get to the warmer, to get the food. And it's not thought of, but it's all response to how to get the food on the line for the buffet. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of movement in dance, and if you put it all together, it's something that's really, really special.
I would say it's fair to call it a dance. It's quite nice to see a busy kitchen being busy without clutter and confusion.
If you watch it, you can see that it's a dance. It's very well, you know, documented that people in dining go through this choreographed movement every day. And it's pretty interesting to watch. And you can see that the people are going to be fortunate enough to see the performance or the live show will be amazed at what the people in dining do day to day.
We like to say that there's an invisible choreography of work that goes on every day to sustain our lives. And I see so much inspiration in the movement that happens outside of the dance studio and in the stories of the people whose work, you know, they've been practicing this work for decades. Sometimes, you know, some folks here have been here at their work for almost 40 years. It's just, like Chrissy said, such an honor to get to be allowed into this world and see it.
It's a very special group. This group is the amazing force that launches our students out into the world with great pride and just a feeling of accomplishment.
We're working at a very highly respected, you know, institution of higher learning, and the idea is to bring focus to the people who aren't the faculty and aren't the students, but are the staff who've probably been here the longest, and whose continued giving to the life of the campus really is essential.
What I really appreciate about the work that Allison and Chrissy are able to do is that they're able to look at everyday movement and things that we overlook all the time, and they show that there is beauty and dance and creativity in everything.
I just think there's something just inherently magical about the performance making and performing process. And a special and impactful component of this is that we get to make something together, and that we get to make something in a context where that typically doesn't happen out of the theater and at the workplace.
I think there's also something that happens as we go through the process where music comes in. You know, Graham comes in with his composition ideas and the band, and then Stephen is lighting a space and kind of transforming it in a visual way that hasn't happened. So there's also this kind of support, sort of feeling of support that I know we get to feel every time, and I know the performers really feel it too, you know, where they're like, oh, we knew this was going to be a show, but we didn't realize, you know, how kind of the production's kind of elements and support it would have and the kind of spectacle it would create. So that's another, I think, changing part in the process, the kind of the high production value, you know, really framing it in a really artistic way.
So preparing for Served is really challenging, because not only are we preparing for the 4,500 meals that we will serve that day, we also have to figure out a way to free up certain numbers of people and put on a show.
You know, the logistics of doing a performance like this, when you have a group of people, is that you still have 2,500 students that need to be fed. Someone's in the background doing that.
Well, that's, I think, it's been the big puzzle of this piece for us, is not only how do you pull it off when these employees who'll be performing need to be feeding students. So how do you do it logistically in terms of their work that they must get done every day? But then also, how do you get audience members to fully appreciate the skill in the work and the beauty in the work in its most authentic environment where people can truly show their best selves when those spaces are quite small. But I think we've come up with a really good solution of actually touring audience members in small groups through the kitchens of Paresky, where they'll be able to get, you know, the feeling of it, the sensory experience of being in the kitchen. And that, to me, I know is super exciting, is to transform those spaces into a theater for just a few minutes.
Yeah, so it's a challenge, but the nature of art, you know, creative constraint, right? There's a problem, and that becomes an impetus for us for creativity and solving problems. We're excited about getting people into small spaces in the kitchen where we can only fit 10 or 15 people, or 15 or 20 people, and be able to really have a much closer picture of what it is, rather than, you know, being on a tarmac or being out in a giant field, or, you know, other sites where we've done work.
By participating in a project like Served, it allows members of the dining services community to really shine and show their unique talents and what they bring to the Williams community.
I think what I most hope for folks who participate, well, for students, that they have a deeper understanding of how their college campus functions, and yet that they have closer relationships with dining staff. What we've already seen, and was clear to me from some of my initial visits into the kitchens, is how much dining staff care for students. And I think it would be great for students to understand and have a deeper appreciation of that care, and how much dining staff is tracking them and wanting their lives to go well here while they're here.
I'm hoping that we take away the sense of a team and working together with each other and creating relationships. I think that's something that we can tell as we're going through. It's growing stronger and stronger for us.
I hope that, you know, people that participate in the performance of Served will realize that there's going to be a real appreciation for what they do. I think that watching them prepare for this has been exciting. I see that they come in fired up because it's something different, and I think that they're going to really appreciate that what they do is important.
When this is all done, I hope our staff would take away a deeper sense of community. And on a certain level, I think people will see, if they read between the lines of the movements and the expressions, what it takes to be a part of a good team.
I think that people have worked very hard to put something like this together, and I want the audience to know how much we appreciate them and serving them every day, and them to take away, wow, they really know what they're doing here in dining services.
I think it's important for the employees that perform. I think they get recognized in a way that they don't often get recognized. You know, no one applauds after they finish their job at the end of the day.
I mean, I know for us, what we're really hoping, first of all, is just to make a really great dance. I mean, that's what every choreographer wants to do, is to make a highly memorable, extraordinary dance. And we see lots of opportunities to do that here, just to make something really beautiful. Like, I hope that this process that Chrissy and I have been doing together for quite some time now, I hope that it leaves people feeling more connected to each other.
Now, dining services is a very special department.
It's a great place to work.
The thing that I love most about my job it is serving the kids, helping the students.
College runs on its stomach. You know, these people have to take care of the kids.